Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Ultimate Doctor Who Marathon for the 25th of October, 2017, as I just finished watching episode 1 of the Underwater Menace. As an episode, I very much have to say that it is an interesting start. It was entertaining. Don't get me wrong. My God, it was an entertaining episode. It just wasn't the best episode. Mainly we're going in with a pretty odd. I guess you'd call it odd. A pretty weird. Very, very, very weird premise. Mainly, that Atlantis happened, and it was when it, sorry, I'm a little off tonight. When it, sank into the sea, there was this guy, Professor Zaroff, who was sort of there, and now he's gonna erase Atlantis, and that's really where the episode's going. It sort of it continues on to sort of basically be weird, and it spends a lot of time fleshing out a bunch of culture for the city, and just sort of to give us a little info on just the ideas that we're playing with. Nothing too bad. A lot of it is just standard sci-fi fare, and a lot of standard sci-fi fare that you really could easily get elsewhere. It's a bit almost over the top for me. I mean, Jamie McCrimmon is a new companion. He doesn't do much. He just sort of tags along. It feels like this was just written for Ben and Polly, and Jamie is just there. So that's sort of a thing. And the Doctor's outlandish. He signs his name Dr. W, so I'm guessing we're supposed to believe his name is actually Doctor Who. It's continuing this very weird tradition of these last couple of episodes giving the Doctor the name Doctor Who or Doctor of Who, which is almost comedic in nature. But other than that, we have a pretty mess start. The cliffhanger's good. It has Polly. They have these fish people to harvest food, because the Atlanteans cannot have their own food. It's food that the food, it just doesn't stay fresh. And the food doesn't stay fresh, so they have to have people with gills implanted, basically their DNA crossed with a fish, and then they become basically fish people. It's a good ending, but the episode's just sort of meh, so I'm going to give episode 1 a 5 out of 10. Alright, it is now the 30th of October 2017, and I do apologize for the large gap. I had some personal stuff come up last week that I was not expecting, and I was just not able to get anything really to work out. But I'm glad to be back, and I think we should be back on a schedule. I've been saying that for a while now, but we should be doing okay when it comes to scheduling everything. I hope. But we have the Underwater Menace episode 2, and my God, it's an episode that exists. That is really the first thing that sort of strikes you with this episode is that we have moving pictures for once, and I love it. I'm glad to see that we can actually do something with that. We have the characters being able to be seen and be given something. I can actually criticize the direction, which is something I do criticize because this episode just looks cheaply made, which is kind of sad because this is the beginning of this. This is closer to. This is only about halfway through the season. If the budget has run out now, what are we going to do for the rest of the season? We obviously just can't have everything sort of stay the way it is. We need to have we need to have some things, just sort of to change. And I think we should be able to see that sort of thing happen. Just a little bit more. I think we're gonna start to get an update as things are gonna start to change, which isn't bad. And I'm glad we've actually, got something to go on. But that being said, the direction is kind of weak. But it's what isn't weak, however, is the one thing that really gets me in this episode is Patrick Troughton as the Doctor. He is over the top and funny, and just the his mannerisms. They're these things that listening to a soundtrack you never really get this experience of. You see him actually doing stuff and being like, oh, there's one point where he looks like, oh, did I cause those problems? I am so sorry. Except, of course, he's not at all sorry. It's all just a silly act just to try to see, oh, will they all believe that that I'm sort of here, which makes sense. You have an episode that I'm glad it exists. It's better that because I think if this didn't exist, I would probably have to give it an even lower score. But as we are, this episode is just silly. We get Zaroff's plan, which is literally I'm going to blow up the world just because I feel like it. He doesn't have any sort of, legitimate backstory. So much so that this is, the weakest episode since the Smugglers episode 4, by the same director, by the way. Yeah, maybe that actually shows something that maybe this director shouldn't be directing Doctor Who. Only a thought. Just because, she isn't, that good in the role. She really doesn't seem to know what she's doing, and that's quite sad. But I have to say that the acting is good. The direction is, again, okay. It is bad. The acting from Patrick Troughton is good, but Zaroff's plan doesn't make any sense. He wants to blow up the world, and the big thing is he convinces one of the priests that Zaroff is going to be evil, so they'll tell the leader. Basically, the King of Land is yeah, I'll think it over. Oh, no, surprise. Zaroff is here. That's the cliffhanger. This is where we're ending. Ha ha, fooled you. It's kind of a bad ending. I did not like the way we decided to end everything like this. And it just doesn't feel quite right, and it feels like we could be doing much, much more with that ending than that. But still, so the Underwater Menace episode 2 gets a 3 out of 10, and I will hopefully be back tomorrow with episode 3, barring nothing going wrong. Alright, it is the 31st of October, 2017. Yes, Halloween. I'm actually doing more than doing an episode a day in a row for once in the recent years, as we get the Underwater Menace episode 3, which, well, it exists. That's sadly all I can say about it. The episode has the other episode has the same problem as the other episode, being honestly just far too far too silly for anything really to be enjoyed. We basically have a story where you have a villain who's over the top. Everything is sort of everything just sort of, falls, sort of just falls apart even more with, with the episode not knowing quite what it wants to be and what it wants to do with itself for just about everything. You have the biggest problem is that this episode is the one famous for the fish people, mainly because the fish people have an entire, it's about a good 5 minutes of the episode just to them dancing and going on strike, which is dumb. I mean, the fish people are already kind of a dumb idea, and the direction just doesn't look very good. I mean, it looks pretty, but it doesn't really do much to, give us this is a really, really good, this is a really, really good, we don't really have a good way to finish everything, so we're just gonna have time and just give us a fourth episode, and it doesn't work. Sure, Patrick Troughton is definitely good here. He gets to be in a costume, and he's obviously enjoying himself, and the episode it's enjoyable to watch. It just it just doesn't give us much to do in terms of just sort of, it doesn't give us much to do in terms of story, which is sort of it just sort of stops, and it's not. It's really not a good. It's just not very good. I find it really, really boring. It ends with a cliffhanger that's good. That's nothing in the world can stop me now. I just want to get the story over with. Honestly, it's fun, but it really isn't. But it isn't good. So I'm gonna give the Underwater Menace episode 3 another 3 out of 10, just because it isn't. It doesn't do much. Alright, so it is the 1st of November 2017, and I just finished watching the Underwater Menace episode 4, and I have to say that was slightly better, at least a slightly better watch than episode 3 and 2, but it's by no means good, and it's by no means average. You really couldn't even. You really couldn't even give us you really couldn't give us anything very very good to sort of get the story to continue just as just to continue as a good as good, but you just sort of get things to have everything just sort of try to wrap it up in a little bow before before really anything else can anything really else can go on, so to speak. Everything just sort of ends the way it does. It just sort of, it's a lot of the episodes, a lot of talking in rooms and basically being like, we're just gonna kill everything. The only really good thing is that we get to see Zaroff actually die in a pretty gruesome sort of scene where he actually drowns. And we have a throwaway line basically saying that science is good, religion is bad, but don't be crazy. And before we move on to like the lead into the next story, which is which has the TARDIS spiraling out of control. So really, other than that, you know, it just sort of ends without any. Yeah, it just sort of ends without any sort of conclusion. It just sort of stops. It's like, right, we're done, we're moving on. So I think I'm just going to have to give the Underwater Menace episode 4 a 4 out of 10, because it was a little more enjoyable, and it means that we're on to another episode. That being said, we add up all four episode scores for the Underwater Menace to give the Underwater Menace a total score of 3.75 out of 10. Thank you, everybody, for watching this installment of the Ultimate Doctor Who Marathon. Please leave a like, comment if you disagree or agree, and subscribe, as the marathon will return in the MOONBASE.